guys, it's Jenny. So there's some things going on. First, I'm wearing makeup and I don't know how to apply makeup. And I'm also not wearing mascara, so if I look weird, that's why. Also I have these huge dead scorpions on my ears and they kind of hurt, but I'm going to deal with that because I'm a Scorpio, so whatever. I don't know why I always feel the need to talk about random things at the beginning. But anyway, what we're doing today. Wait, let me give you the backstory. So in my last video, it was a Dolls Kill haul, and I showed you guys that dress from Delia's, the black baby doll dress, and I hated it because it just didn't fit at all. But I liked the cut of it, it just wasn't the right size for me. So what I did is I returned it, but before I returned it, I traced it and I used it to make my own dress that was like slightly bigger. So this is the dress I made. Hopefully you can see it. So I made it without sleeves. It's like a tank top. And as you can see, I made it much bigger. I dropped the waistline so it would be at my natural waist and I could wear a belt with it. And it's obviously much longer. So yeah, I really like this dress. And I got this fabric from Hobby Lobby for like $3. And on that same trip, I also got this fabric. So this is like an unstretchy, I'm pretty sure it's cotton. So what I want to do today is I want to make another version of that dress. I know it's kind of weird to have two of the same, but I just really like that style. And it's very easy because with unstretchy fabric, you're kind of limited in terms of what you can make with it for clothing, obviously, because you have to include some kind of closure and you have to make sure your measurements are right because obviously there's no room for error with these. So that kind of oversized dress I just really love. But for this fabric, I want to make it a little bit different. For this one, I'm going to be adding sleeves. And before you say, oh my god, sleeves, I can't do that, I'm leaving. Wait, hold on. So I'm going to be trying out doloman sleeves, I believe they're called. So basically what that is, it's just the sleeve is attached to the body, so the cut of fabric is all in one piece. It's the body and the sleeve all in one piece. There's no sewing on the sleeves and all that nonsense. I have this super old shirt that I found in like my fabric stock of stuff that I hoard. So hopefully you can see, it's not like, it's slightly different than a normal sleeve shape, but yeah, hopefully you can see it's just all from one cut. It just kind of extends out. And you can make them longer or short, or like it can just come up to the end of your shoulder or go farther down. So that's what I'm going to be attempting today. So yeah, I think maybe I should do a disclaimer. I don't know. I don't want to have people stop watching this video, but I'm a beginner sewer, sewist, whatever you want to call it. So this isn't a tutorial per se. This is more of just like, watch me make this dress. And if you have like some more sewing skills, this video could serve kind of as like some inspiration for you. So I'll try to explain what I'm doing, but it's not gonna be like a very thorough, like step-by-step I'm teaching you, because I'm still learning myself. So hopefully you still want to watch this video. I'm sorry. This is more just like me having fun. And I thought I'd film it because I made this super cute dress and I didn't even film it. So yeah, that was a long intro. Let me just get started. So obviously I have all my things laid out. The fabric is down, right side's touching, right side facing up so I can mark on it with my pencil. Obviously this looks a little weird. I have the doloman shirt laid down underneath just to help me with the shape of the sleeve, even though it's really a simple shape. It's just a curve and then you extend it as far as you want. It could be short or long. And then I have the other dress I made because I did not make that pattern on paper. I just traced it directly onto the fabric. So it would have been helpful if I had made a paper pattern, but I didn't. When I'm marking fabric, I usually don't mark for seam allowance. I just trace the fabric, and then when I cut, I add seam allowance. First, I'm just going to trace the back piece, basically like the back neckline. I had traced a line here, but I did that wrong. So let's say that's my seam allowance, and then, I don't know, I just like to trace like along the fabric so I know like what the size of the garment is supposed to be, and then you add seam allowance. I don't understand why that's not how people do it. That's how I do it. So that's the neck, and then I have to make sure I get the length. So there's my length. I kind of just measured this from my shoulder to my natural waist. If you want more of like the baby doll cut, you can just do it to, you know, like your ribs or whatever you want. So yeah, that's where mine is. Now I'm just gonna trace this shirt sleeve. It's pretty much just like a straight line on top, and then it comes down at an angle. So having something to trace is helpful, but it's really not necessary. It's not like a regular sleeve with all those curves, and it's really not that complicated, which is why I don't know why I've never made one of these before, because they're so easy. So yeah, I'll trace this flat part on top. There's just a little bit of seam allowance, but this fabric is pretty stiff, which in my opinion makes it easier to hem. So honestly, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and trace this exactly, even though the shirt is stretchy and smaller. The top should be good, but at this bottom part obviously is where I'm gonna have to do some adjustments. And I know I like to scribble with my marking pencils, sorry about it, don't judge me. So yeah, that's what the top looks like. I want mine to be just a tad bit longer, so I'm extending this line. See, I don't even need a ruler. I should probably be using one. See, this is why I was like, this isn't a tutorial, but you know, I'm just doing whatever I want. So yeah, the sleeve, I mean, it's pretty much straight, so I think I'm just gonna draw a straight line. But first I'll do the bottom. So yeah, the shirt kind of extends. It's kind of like, I don't know, like not really a bat wing sleeve, but kind of, I guess. But yeah, I don't want all this extra fabric, especially when the fabric that I'm using is stiff. So I'm gonna say no to that. So I'm gonna do kind of a bigger curve. Ooh, that's actually like, see, I'm like Frankensteining these two together. So hopefully this is what it will look like. Let's do it. So I'm just gonna trace a straight line down here. There. And I'll get this curve in. Hopefully I don't mess this up, because this was the last piece on the bolt. I can't remember how many yards it is. It might be like 1.5 yards. Because I asked the lady for 2 yards, and then she was unrolling it, and she was like, yeah, there's not 2 yards. So she just gave me the rest of the bolt. I think this one might have had 2 yards, or this could have been the one that was last on the bolt. I don't know. So yeah, hopefully I don't mess up, because I'm working with limited fabric here. So now we just extend this bottom line out. It curves slightly down, but it mainly goes it curves down into a straight line, if that makes sense. So, and now I'm just going to connect these with a straight line. Not using my ruler, I'll fix that later, don't you worry. Yeah, you can kind of see my lines. There's the neckline, here's the shoulder, and then it comes all the way down into the sleeve. So my sleeve is a little bit longer. The opening, I think the opening should be good, because I have kind of like skinny little arms, so that's a pretty big opening, so that's good. I made a big curve here. It's a lot bigger than the one on the shirt. I think what I'm going to do is smooth it out a little bit. I think I curved it too much. And then it just comes down here, and I'm going to cut straight across. Okay, I probably should have explained this earlier, but I was doing this, the fold of the fabric is right here, so that'll be like the center of the shirt. I'm going to cut this out first, this back piece, so I can use it and basically just trace the shape for the front piece. The only thing that'll be changing on the front piece will be the neckline, and it'll be kind of like a scoop like on my other dress. So basically you just have to lower the neckline in the front or in the back. It can be like a big round neck hole. You need to do that because this is going to be a dress with no closures, which is also why it's kind of an oversized fit. So yeah, let me just cut this out with my rotary cutter, and I'm gonna place a couple pins in it so when I'm moving it, they don't like slide around. Okay, these are just temporary. And like I said before, this is the point where I usually like to add seam allowance. So yeah, I usually just cut, you know, a little bit outside of the hem. I don't measure my seams, so I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm not a famous designer, is because I don't like to measure, but whatever. Okay, so now I just slid the fabric up to use the next portion. The fold is still on this side, and I've placed that piece of fabric that I just cut down on it. And since we're making the front piece now, I folded the back part of the neck out the way, and I'm using my old dress. I also folded the back out of the way. So I'm just gonna line up the shoulders at the top. Okay, and I'm just gonna trace this neckline because it was a good size for me. I can get it on. Like I've said 1,000 times, there's no stretch, so you need to make sure it's big enough to slide over your head unless you want to add a zipper or even just like some button closure at the back, but I would prefer not to. So, oh my gosh, this is such a bad angle to lean over at, but yeah. Okay, so there's the neckline, just a little scoop. I'll get this out the way. I'm just gonna fold this back over, and now I'm just gonna cut around the lines, and then when I get to the shoulder, I'll fold it back, and then I'll cut along that line. But for now, I'll just cut the rest of this out. And since this piece of cut fabric already has the seam lines, I'm just gonna go directly next to it. I don't have to add extra seam allowance like I did for the first piece. Let me do all the straight edges first. That was a little wobbly. Don't worry, we'll fix that when we're hemming, okay? It's all good. Need to slide this down a little bit. Sorry, I'm wearing like ugly clothes and you can see that, but whatever. From here, and I'll just follow the line that I made. These curves are tricky, y'all. This is why I bought a rotary cutter and it don't even work. There we go. Okay, so now I have my front and back pieces cut out, which means we are in the home stretch. This was the hardest part because the skirt part of the dress is really just a big rectangle. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm going to pin them together and try it on just to make sure it fits, and then from there I can kind of decide like what I'm really worried about is the neck hole. This is a little bit small. Oh my god, it came out really like a U shape. So yeah, basically I'm really just gonna see if the neck hole is okay, and then I can see like if it's super big, then I'll use a really big seam allowance when I'm sewing, and if it's fitting okay, then I'll just use a normal size. So yeah, I'm just going to pin these together. I'm going to do right sides together for this. Since we're doing sleeves, these kind of unique sleeves, we're really just testing to see if like my arms can fit in them and you know, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to pin this. I'll try it on and I'll show you guys how it's looking. Okay, so here's how it's looking so far. It was actually like easy to get on, even though the neck was a little bit smaller than I thought. The arms were kind of a little bit of a struggle. I mean, I didn't like have to unpin it. I still got it with the pins in, but I'm just gonna make sure that I do the seam. Is it even called seam allowance? I keep calling it seam allowance, but you know, when I'm sewing, I'm gonna keep the seam allowance a little bit on the smaller side because I did pin pretty far in. It looks like scrubs right now. It's so funny. So yeah, the sleeves actually turned out pretty all right. With the doloman sleeve, there is going to be a bit of excess fabric, but I mean, this isn't exactly how it's going to look, but I think it looks good so far. So yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and sew this together. Yeah. So now I'm going to go ahead and get ready to start sewing. There's nothing fancy going on here. Normal foot, normal needle. Since this is just like a cotton fabric, no stretch, no nothing, you could just do a straight stitch, but I am going to be using a zigzag stitch just because I always get worried that my clothes are going to unravel as I wear them. So it just gives me like some security so I feel confident enough to wear them out in public. But yeah, let's just get started. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I am using quite a small seam allowance. I just have the edge of the fabric lined up with the sewing foot, whatever it's called. The bottom piece is slightly bigger, so that sticks out, but I'm lining up the shorter piece with the edge of the foot. So yeah, I know that is pretty small, but I tend to do that a lot. I know people usually use seam allowances of like 1/2 inch, but I just never do that, and that's probably why I'm worried that my things are going to unravel. But anyway, let's go. And now we're getting to the curve of the arm, so as usual, you always want to be careful going around curves. Honestly, why is sewing on camera making me worse at it? I swear. I usually do better. I don't know. Okay, so that, let's see, can you see that? There we go. So that is the side seam and up underneath the arm. Sorry that my fabric is cut so jagged. Like, I was having trouble with the rotary cutter, but it usually doesn't look that bad. But yeah, we'll fix that once everything is sewn, and I'll trim off the excess. And you'll especially want to trim the excess under the sleeve so it's not bulky. And also, see, you can see why I did the zigzag stitch, because the fabric does fray a little bit, and I worry that a straight stitch won't hold it. So I wish I had a serger, that would be cool, but I don't. So let's finish up. That side was a little messy, I swear guys, I think I'm just nervous. Like, I don't know. Okay, now I just have to do both shoulders. So the top part of the sleeve. And on this side, I don't know what happened on the bottom there, like, but this side I can more clearly see my guidelines, so that's helpful. I should really use those to my advantage more often, so. Don't put your hand there like I just did, that was stupid. It's the nerves getting to me. I made that hem a little bit too big, but that's what that looks like. I think it'll still fit. I said I have little scrawny stick arms, so that's fun. I'm on to the last side, nice and easy. Okay, lining up the same way. Nothing new here. Make sure I get all the way to the edge, because then it'll start to unravel. When it's all done. Okay, so that was all the sewing for the top, nice and easy, right? We got sleeves with nothing too difficult. So I'm going to turn it inside out and try it on again so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so here is how the top is looking so far. It's more fitted than that other dress that I made, but I kind of like it, and I was still able to fairly easily get it on and get my arms through the sleeves. As you can see, I just have a little bit of room, so be mindful of that when you're making your own. Now we can go on from the second to last step. We just have to take a long rectangle of fabric, ruffle it up, attach it to the dress, hem everything, and then we'll be done. Okay, so now we're going to be cutting the last piece of fabric, which is for our skirt. And I basically have one big section of fabric left that's not like the scraps from where I cut out the top. So I'm just going to cut out a big rectangle here, first and foremost. I'm going to make sure the line is straight so I don't waste any fabric, so I can get as much as possible for the skirt. Okay, so the dimensions of this rectangle fabric are going to be different for pretty much everyone, and that is the beauty of making your own dress. It's going to change depending on both your size, like your waist measurement, and also how long you want your skirt to be. For mine, I'm going to be using the fabric this way, if that makes sense. So after hemming and sewing everything, it's currently 22. It's probably going to be around 20 inches when I'm done, which is perfect for me. That is plenty long enough. And let's see. Since this is going to be a ruffled bottom, you're going to need a lot more than your typical waist measurement. This piece of fabric is 30 and obviously it's doubled, so I have 60 inches here. So it's about twice my waist measurement, and typically for a lot of ruffles you'll want to do maybe 3, maybe even 2.5, but 2 will be just fine for me, mainly because it's all I have, but also it's just going to give me some more volume in the skirt. So you can make this much longer if you want. If you want like an extra poofy dress, you can also, shorten it, lengthen it, anything you want really. If you didn't even want a very roughly dressed, I'm sure you could do 1.5. But anyway, so here's my piece of fabric. And since I'm gonna need 2 rectangles like this, I'm going to unfold it and cut it here in the middle, so I have 2 identical pieces that will be 30 by 20 inches. Okay, so now I have my 2 identical pieces of fabric, and next we have to sew them together. So we're going to be doing right sides together for this. And we're sewing together the length, not the width, obviously, because that's where we're going to be creating the ruffles that go around your waist. So we're just going to sew the length together, so basically it becomes a skirt that can wrap around your waist. And at this point, most people would probably trim off this portion of the fabric. I forget what it's called, but like the part where it was on the bolt. I know, look, I've just been doing weird things all day today, but I usually never cut these off. I save them, and I basically use them for hemming purposes, especially when I'm short on fabric. So, I mean, if I cut this off, then my dress would be shorter, but since I leave it on, all I have to do is do a double rolled hem, and it'll be completely sealed inside, and I won't lose as much length as I would if I had cut it off and then done a double rolled hem. So yeah, that's my explanation for that. What I'm just going to do now is sew this length together. So I've joined together my 2 rectangles at one side with a zigzag stitch again. You can also do your straight stitch if you'd like. I don't know if I made this clear, but you're just joining one side right now, so we're not making a loop of fabric yet, we're just making one long strip. So that was on the short end, the length of the skirt. So now along the width of the skirt, which would also be the longest edge for mine, that's 60 inches, we're going to create the ruffles, and to do that I'm going to be using a basting stitch. And I'm sure you already know what that is, but if not, it's a straight stitch set to the longest setting. And you can just sew either 1 or 2 rows. I've seen people do 2 rows of basting stitches to do this, but I usually just do 1 for time reasons. I'm going to set mine to the highest setting, which is 5. Remember also when doing a basting stitch to leave the ends of your thread pretty long, and also do not back stitch on either end. So let's just quickly do that. Now we've reached the end. Like I said, don't back stitch. Lift your needle, your sewing foot, and make the thread a little bit longer than you usually will and just cut it. And here's what our basting stitches look like. So they are a little bit delicate. If you like yank them too hard, they'll start to unravel. But what we're going to be doing is using these to create the ruffles. Okay, sorry that I already started to ruffle my fabric a little bit. I'm just refilming this part. So what I was explaining is that hopefully you'll have left your long threads at both ends of the fabric. So what you're going to do from both sides, pick either the top or the bottom thread from both sides. Don't pick the top from one side and the bottom from the other. So I'm going to pick the bottom thread and just start to gently pull it. So here's the bottom thread, and I'm going to start to gently pull it, and then the fabric will immediately start to bunch up. And what you're going to do is just start basically pushing it down, distributing the fabric along the string. So just keep pulling your strings, sorry, I bumped the camera. Your string's going to start to get longer and longer, and your fabric's going to get shorter. So I'm going to keep scrunching this until I can match it up with my top. So like I said, don't use your waist measurement to measure this piece of fabric. Basically just scrunch it up as much as you can, and then keep checking back and see if it will match up with this. Also remember to go from both sides. You won't be able to ruffle the whole piece of fabric just from one side, so make sure you're pulling on both ends. Once you think you have pulled it enough, then you can start to just like evenly distribute the ruffles around within the same space, if that makes sense. So you'll have the right length, but you'll just like move them around so it's evenly ruffled. Yeah, I have quite a bit to go. So I'm gonna finish this up and I'll show you how it looks when I get the ruffles all done. So I've ruffled my skirt up, and what I often end up doing is making it too small, as you can obviously see. So that's no problem. You just go the opposite way. Start pulling the fabric back, basically down the string, up the string, you know, the opposite way from where you were pulling before. So I'm just going to keep distributing the ruffles, add a little bit of length back into the skirt until it can fit the top. Make sure, as well as distributing the ruffles evenly, that the front and back are evenly distributed, if that makes sense. So you don't end up having like a flat piece in the front and a very ruffled piece in the back. So it's almost the same length. I'm just going to do a couple more adjustments, and once that is perfect, what you're going to do is go back to this other side that has not been sewed together yet. So you're going to sew that together. So make sure this is the right size for your top, and then you'll be sewing right sides together on the other edge of the skirt, and then we can begin to attach it to the top. So I sewed up the other side of the skirt, and now we're ready to attach the top with the skirt. So what I just did was I placed the top inside of the skirt, and the top itself was right side out, meaning on the inside here it would be right sides touching, and then when you look at the shirt you'll see the wrong side. So I think the easiest way to sew this is just quarter it, pin it in 4 places, and adjust as you go along. One thing to be mindful of is make sure that you do sew along or below the basting stitch that you made, so you can't see it from the outside of the dress once it's all finished. And yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get this sewn. So for this part I will just be using a normal straight stitch, and like I said, just line it up as you go along and it shouldn't be too hard. And this area is a little flat, so I'm just gonna like manually bunch up some fabric and like fold it over, kind of like a pleat, but I just don't want this area to be so flat, so I'm just kind of like, you know, just folding it over, and I'm gonna hold it down. Okay, and I'm just making sure I made it all the way back to where I started, and then I'm just going to do a couple back stitches. I always do a lot. I know most people don't do that, but it just makes me feel better. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and hem these. This is the closest matching thread I could find because I don't want to use white. I think it would stand out too much, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I think I'm gonna have to wait till tomorrow to show you guys the final product. Okay, so I just finished putting a double rolled hem on all of my unfinished edges. Also removed the basting stitches, and now I have the finished dress. And here's what it looks like. There are the sleeves. Obviously you can see it's pretty oversized, but super comfortable. And the thing I like about it is it works great with a belt because it's at your waistline. So I just bought a belt in the mail actually, and it just got here, so I'm going to try that on. So yeah, I think it works really great with the dress. It's nice and poofy. You still have good movement on it. Even though the fabric is stiff, unlike the Delia's dress, you still have like pretty good range of motion in this one. And when I lift my arms, it gets a little bit shorter, but not too short, so that's good. So here's the back. This is how it's gonna look. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. So this was technically my first sewing tutorial, I guess, where like the full video is about sewing. So I know it wasn't perfect, but I tried my best. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about the dress, what you think about my video. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!